Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world without tea. A world devoid of that soothing sip in the morning or that comforting warmth on a cold evening. It's difficult to imagine, right? A world without tea. At least for me, it is. For me, tea has been a massive part of my teenage years. It has guided me in life, provided me with clarity, and has helped me on my journey of self-discovery. And I'd like to share my findings with you all today. But firstly, we have to take a look into the past, which is why I'm going to take you all back to ancient China, more specifically 2737 before century. Legend has it that Emperor Shennong stumbled upon the very first brew, the very first actual form of tea, when a few leaves from a nearby tree fell into a spot of boiling water. He was intrigued by the aroma, and so he took a sip. And thus, the story of tea began. Now, early on, tea was valued not only for its taste, but also for its medicinal properties. Its consumption spread throughout all of China, and by the Tang Dynasty, tea had become a staple in Chinese culture, with special tools and rituals all dedicated to its preparation and enjoyment. Tea's journey along the Silk Road introduced it to Central Asia, the Middle East, and eventually reaching Europe, captivating people across cultures. Like, for example, in Japan, the tea ceremony or cha no yu became an art form. Meanwhile, in Britain, tea became a sort of social staple. So when they later colonized regions, tea-producing regions such as India, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia, this led to mass production and global trade, which influenced how we drink tea to this day. But enough on the history lesson, am I right? And let me tell you about my relationship with tea. Now, my first encounter with tea, or at least the first that I can remember of, was back in kindergarten. Back then, whenever I would get hurt while playing outside, my teacher at that time would give me a cup of warm, sweet tea to calm me down. And at that time, the only type of tea that I know of was this. I can remember vividly waiting for my mom to come pick me up after school back in kindergarten. I remember it was raining really heavily at that time, and I was waiting outside in the parking lot. Then suddenly, I heard my teacher calling my name. She offered to make me a cup of tea. And so I watched her brew my cup of tea, and I remembered being so mesmerized by the process. And as I took a sip, I suddenly entered into a deep state of relaxation. I felt as if the whole world was suddenly all quiet. It was still raining outside, right? But I heard nothing. It was like I was in a different place, a different space altogether. And as you can imagine, as a 4-year-old, that was a very eye-opening experience, right? But fast forward to my teenage years, puberty hit me pretty hard. And there was one point in my life where I felt so lost and confused about myself and my purpose. At that time, it felt like I didn't even know myself. Whenever people would ask me what my passion is, what I wanted to be in the future, I couldn't answer them with confidence. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was truly a stranger to myself. But I didn't want to get stuck there, you know? I didn't want to get stuck there. And so I knew I had to find my passion. I had to know who I am and what I am born in this world to do, right? And so long story short, as I was stressing out over this, my mind, it suddenly went to that day back on kindergarten. And then I remembered how peaceful and clear my mind was at that time. And I decided that that peacefulness and that clarity was exactly what I needed right now. And so for the first time in many years, I decided to drink some tea. Now, as I was getting more and more immersed into the realm of tea, I decided that I wanted to learn more about tea cultures from around the world. I watched countless videos, I read many articles, and I went to participate in various tea-related events, gaining tons of knowledge in the process. And the thing I found out was that I could reach incredible levels of peace and relaxation in not only the process of drinking the tea, but also in the process of preparing the tea. When I smelled the dry leaves, when I poured the water, even while I waited for the tea to brew, it transported me into an entirely different place. And when I'm drinking tea, my mind, it becomes so incredibly clear. And this provides me with much needed time for reflection. I reflected on my thoughts, I reflected on my actions, and I reflected on my purpose. And it worked. For me, it worked because nowadays I'm no longer a stranger to myself. For once, I'm actually in tune with my body, my mind, and my soul. For once, I'm actually living in the moment. And for once, I'm actually aware. Now, this clarity isn't something that's achievable through only tea, of course. There are countless other activities that you can do in order to achieve it. For me, this may be drinking tea, but for someone else, it's different, right? And this can be anything. Meditating, exercising, taking walks in nature, spending time with family, cooking, anything. Anything that makes you feel relaxed. And again, it's different for everybody, right? So you got to try for yourself to see what works the best for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I know most people think of tea as just a simple drink, right? But if you know how to use it properly, tea can guide you through your journey in life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that tea is this sort of magical potion that can fix all of your problems. But instead, what I'm trying to say is, when you take some time to calm down, when you take a moment to be present, and when you truly look deep inside of yourself, you will find whatever it is that you are looking for. After all, life is too short to stress over every little thing, right? Just YOLO. You only live once. Thank you.